Welcome to The Blend. I am your host, Steve Benz, broadcasting live from Studio B in downtown Chicago. Today's guest is from a band everyone knows. Everyone knows who Def Leppard is. Everyone knows who Viv Campbell is. They are on tour with Journey. They're going to be here in Chicago and Milwaukee. Got that. It's going to be in July at Wrigley Field. And on June 4th, they're going to be at Summerfest up in Milwaukee. Let's welcome the guitarist from Def Leppard. Viv, welcome to The Blend.
Hey, Steve, how's it going?
It's going all right. The tour is, you guys are like a train. You guys hit the road, nothing stops you. You are out with Journey. There is a lot of pressure on this tour. Is there not? Okay, I'm kidding.
No pressure at all. No, it's what we do,
I don't know. Journey's got a lot of hits. You could sit in back and go, my God, I forgot about that one. That one was cool. How about that one? That's a great song, too.
Well, that's kind of how it goes, That's what makes it such a good tour, I think, for us, a great match, because Def Leppard, like Journey, just have very, very deep catalog of genuine hit songs, so it's one after the other, So it makes for a good night, I got to say.
Now, I think the biggest pressure, Phil having to step away from the tour for some family reasons, and that's always numero uno. Who is going to remove their shirt, because all of the ladies want to know here in Chicago?
Oh, Phil is back, and his shirt is very much off.
So right there, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about that at all, no. No, Phil had to miss 3 shows last week. To fly back to California, but everything is good. Everyone is good, and we're back in play.
Now, you guys are like a mini family. So you care about each other. Each have gone through different things in life, including yourself. Where do you find the inner strength to get up, to keep the tour going on, to keep recording new music?
Well, the show must go on, The band's been together for 40 years, and might even be 41. I'm the new guy. I've only been here 26 years, so working on my tenure. We have a lot of ambition. This band has always had a lot of ambition. I remember 26 years ago when I first joined, Joe sat me down and talked to me about it, and Joe very, very much is the originator of Def Leppard, and he's the driving force behind it, but we all kind of, step into a role within the band, and we all understand the different roles that we have, and we're very ambitious, and we work very hard. We don't take ourselves that seriously, but we do take our job seriously, and, we have a good time doing it, so it just keeps going, and it's kind of been growing for us in recent years. I think there's a genuine upside to music piracy for a career act like Def Leppard. We've seen more and more younger people come to our shows over the years, and that number is growing. So our audience is growing, and that, by extension, kind of breathes new life into us, and brings new energy to our performance. And, as far as writing and creating new music, I think that's vital for any band, even though record sales are only a fraction of what they used to be. It's still essential for any band to exercise the creative muscle, and Def Leppard is no different when it comes to that.
Now, you talked about Joe being the driving force behind the band. So tell me about the different personalities of the band. Like, who's the funny one? We can all be pretty funny. We kind of take turns at that. Joe's pretty funny too, I gotta say. It depends how many drinks you get down his neck, but on a school night, that's not too many. Rick's pretty funny, Rick Allen. We all have our different personalities that kind of mesh pretty well together in this band. We don't always agree on everything, but we have a mutual respect for each other and a professional respect for each other to make things work. It's not like we go camping together or wear matching pajamas or anything, but we can be pretty close for a band that's been together for so many years. We all ultimately capitulate to the greater good of the band. I think we all kind of share that point of view, and that makes it work for us.
So is there someone that is, say, the stickler for the music or in the studio or sound? Like before you hit the stage, is there some type of ritual? Is there something that you do that says, this is my role, this is Rick's role, this is Joe's role?
Well, I mean, we all have different personalities. I think when you see Def Leppard on stage, our personalities are very apparent right there. It's a very visual thing. As far as what happens before a show, I mean, if you come backstage at a Def Leppard show, you'll hear a lot of vocal warm-ups. You know, we do take really great pride in the fact that we can replicate our studio sound live. I'd go so far as to say we're one of the strongest vocal hard rock bands that there's ever been. You know, Queen was a huge influence for us all growing up, and very much a template for Def Leppard was Queen meets AC/DC, you know. And so the vocals are very, very important, and we do it live. So, you know, it's not sex, drugs, and rock and roll backstage at a Def Leppard show. It's vocal warm-ups and juicing and yoga stretches.
Right.
It's not very sexy.
Right. Yeah, but that's the truth. That's really how it kind of works. You're 40 years into this. Now, who was your influence? You talked about Queen and AC/DC influencing the band. What about you and how you play the guitar?
Well, I have a similar influence. One of the first interviews I ever did with Joe when I first joined Def Leppard, we were in Italy or somewhere, and we were asked the question, like, what first got the ball rolling first? And it was the first time that Joe and I realized it was actually Mark Bolan and T-Rex. We both had a similar influence that started it all for us. I went from there to hard rock guitar. I kind of gravitated towards guitar-driven bands, but it was Mark Bolan and T-Rex that first started it for me and made me want to grow my hair and be a guitar player and do that kind of stuff. But Rory Gallagher was my first guitar hero because I grew up in Belfast in the 1970s, and we didn't get a lot of international acts coming through there because of the Troubles at the time. But Rory Gallagher would play every year, every Christmas. He'd come and do a series of shows in Belfast, and I saw those shows with the first concert I ever saw, and the second, and the third, and the fourth. It was the first album I had was a Rory Gallagher album. Thin Lizzy, another Irish band, were a huge influence on me. So again, anything that had sort of guitar-centric music, but Rory Gallagher was my first guitar hero, and from that, I'd say Gary Moore was probably the guitarist that I probably learned the most from over my career. It's coincidental that both those guys were Irish. It's just, I guess that's what I was kind of exposed to more than anything else.
Now, I just downloaded an acoustic version of a Bang a Gong from T-Rex from years ago from the band, Def Leppard, recording that. That was unbelievable. I am a huge Thin Lizzy fan. I would love to hear a Thin Lizzy song when you guys get here in Chicago. It's just my...
I'd say there's no chance of that. We have played them on occasion, but on this tour, you know, the entire Def Leppard catalog just went online finally in January of this year for download and streaming. We've for many years had contractual issues with our old record company, so which prevented the catalog from being available. But because we're kind of really celebrating the band's catalog on this tour and playing a lot of the classic stuff. We're representing also our most recent album of late 2015, but we unfortunately don't have a lot of time to play a Thin Lizzy cover, much as I would love to.
Well, maybe you could play it with your side project, and I call it a side project, although it's pretty big. Last in Line, that's pretty badass, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been putting a lot of work into that. We've just actually finished up our second studio album with that. That'll be coming out early 2019 when I'm available to tour it. But I've been busy with Last in Line all this year, doing weekend fly shows and, you know, flying out back and forth out of LA and playing 3-4 shows over a long weekend. And it's been great. I actually really appreciate the fact that I get to exercise that muscle, you know, and get back to be able to play those early Dio songs and to play with Vinny Appice again. It's been a great pleasure. And it's a tight band, you know. It's a lot of fun. You know, the challenge in Def Leppard, like I mentioned earlier, is we're really strong on the vocals, and it's much more a vocal-intensive sort of a thing for me to go out and do a Def Leppard show. But when I get to play shows with Last in Line, I don't even sing. I just want to play guitar. So there's a lot of notes, you know.
I think that's great that almost all of the members have some sort of side project that they're working on, either producing, writing for others, touring with others. That's really great. You don't see a lot of that these days.
Well, it's good. It kind of keeps us fresh too, because we all get off to go and do these things, and when we come back to Def Leppard, we're kind of ready for that, and we're ready to focus on what it is that we do with Def Leppard. But it's, generally speaking, you are what you do, and we've all, 5 of us, just ever wanted to be musicians and rock bands, and I don't like sitting around doing nothing. Life is short, and sometimes it's shorter than we anticipate, and it's nice to get out and actually, like I say, scratch this creative itch, and do something that's a little bit different. And that's also, maybe another component of being in a band that's been together for so many years, that it's fresh to go off and kind of explore other things when you can, and then when you come back to it, you feel revitalized. And Leppard as a band, we're playing, we're singing better than ever. Every time we go on tour, we're kind of incrementally making our performance better than it was the last time, and it's a great pleasure to be able to do that. And I really think that part is because we are available and inclined and motivated to go off and do these other creative pursuits in our downtime.
Now, I was backstage last year when you were here in Chicago, and I mentioned that myself, that you, as a band, you guys had never sounded better. Why is it that bands are sounding better later in their careers?
Well, it's an athlete has a finite window when they're really at their peak performance. With a musician, you get to grow even more. You get to nuance your performance and finesse it and make it better and better year after year after year. I remember seeing B.B. King play a year or two before he died, and it was exquisite. There's experience really is the best teacher, and with Leppard, we keep pushing ourselves a little bit more each and every tour, in every dimension. I mean, the visual spectacle of the show, the production elements, all of that stuff. But even beyond that, just down to the musical level, we could very easily phone it in, but we're still very motivated to make it as good as it can be.
So who hasn't Leppard played with or toured with?
There's not many bands, off the top of my head, we've never done a tour with Van Halen.
I actually said that this morning.
Really?
What a tour it would be for Def Leppard and Van Halen with David Lee Roth.
Indeed, yeah. There's all sorts of possibilities, but there's not that many bands of our generation that are left. You hear about Motley Crue retiring, and there's always whispers that it could be Aerosmith's last tour, and AC/DC. Who knows what's happening with that? So I mean, Leppard, we really are pretty much the last guy standing at this stage. Not that many of us left.
So with the pure bands that are out there that you came out with in the 70s, 80s, and even the 90s, so where are you on that hierarchy? If someone was to say, I don't know, Super Bowl of rock or whatever, where are you on that list?
Well, it's not really for us to say, but, as I mentioned earlier, we do have a lot of ambition in this band. So, we definitely want to rise to the top. We grew up revering bands like Led Zeppelin and The Who and Queen, those great British rock bands that we grew up listening to. And, so that's kind of our target. We want to kind of be up there. We want people to look at us in years to come as one of those great rock institutions.
Hey, I'd agree with that. My son, who's in his mid-20s, downloaded the catalog right away and thinks you're like a brand new band.
Excellent.
And I sit there going,
you gotta love it.
I'm showing him T-shirts from the 80s, the 90s, and 2000, and he's looking at me like, Dad, you're now cool for about 45 seconds.
There you go. Well, take it while you can. 45 seconds is better than no seconds.
Right? That's all I keep telling him. Like, yes, I'm cool, just for a couple minutes. Viv, it is an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. We will see you here in Chicago and Milwaukee in the upcoming months. We'll see you soon. You're welcome back anytime you want.
Thank you, Steve. It's been a pleasure.
All right, take care.